Right, welcome back to another week review of the road, my training for this last week for the Road to Cape Point Challenge. This is the end of week 9 out of 14. So we're now in the last 4-week build up until Cape Point, literally a month to go. So a little bit nerve-wracking. Well, I mean a little bit over a month. I believe the Cape Point Challenge race is actually going to be on the 18th of December, and it's currently the 15th, so a month, 3 days. So a little bit nerve-wracking, starting to get quite serious, starting to be a lot more real. But I've had a phenomenal week of training, if I do say so myself. Yeah, I think last week I spoke about the qualifier. I've started recording these on Mondays because Sunday tends to be sometimes quite a hard day, because if I do have viewings or something for work, sometimes getting back and recording is quite hard. So Mondays I found are a little bit easier to schedule the time. But so I think last week I spoke about the qualifier, which was great. If you want to go back and watch that. But this has been a really cool week of training. So Monday I took off. I obviously was resting after the qualifier. So previously the 24.83 quarter 25Ks was the longest I've ever paddled. And it actually went quite well. I was feeling quite broken, but felt good as well. I think, as I said previously, I was quite proud of the paddle. So I took Monday off, and then Tuesday came around. Now Tuesday I originally planned to do 20. So I did a little paddling cruise along the coast, all the way through the harbour at Simonstown up towards Millers, and I didn't quite make it all the way to Millers. But I turned around once I hit like 11 on my clock, and I was like, okay, cool, if I can do like 25, I'm happy. So I turned down, ended up coming back at 22, and then I was still feeling really good. I had some juice. The whole point of the long paddle was to test out a new juice system, which was basically just a juice bag, but I kind of wanted to see how much juice I require, what do I really need, and all that kind of thing. And I was paddling with Oros of all things, and it was really good. But anyway, so I was just sipping on my Oros, feeling quite cool. And then I got back to the beach at 22Ks, and I still felt pretty fresh. Like obviously I wasn't completely fresh, I'd just done 22Ks, but I wasn't dead tired. And in my head I was like, you might as well just paddle until you can't really. So I was like, well, let's try go for 30. So I ended up coming back all the way along the coast, going past Fishhook, and then paddling all the way to Muizenberg and back, and ended up doing a 30-kilometer paddle all by myself. And more impressively than that, I averaged 11 kilometers an hour, which for a solo paddle for 36Ks, for 30Ks, isn't that bad at all. So I was quite stoked with that, and that obviously made me quite happy. I blew quite hard. It didn't really blow, but the last 4Ks were hard, and I remember just like laughing to myself as I got back to the beach, because I was like, really was puffing, but felt very pleased with it. Feeling quite fresh after 30Ks is impressive no matter what. But yeah, I wasn't completely broken, so I was pleased with that. And then Wednesday I did another 10K, so I was feeling sore, so I just got in the water and did a 10K anyway. And then Thursday came around, took Thursday off. Friday now I was a little bit upset because I didn't want to take 2 days off, but there was a lot of stuff happening with work and ended up getting really stressed. I ate quite badly, which I ended up paying for the next day, but I didn't get on the water, and so I'm a little bit disappointed with that. But I was like, suck it up, you're gonna do a long one tomorrow. So the goal on Saturday was to do another long paddle. I was gonna try go for 30, 35, but ended up like getting on the water. Now I had a little bit of like a tight hip, so I'd been releasing that. But then I got on the water on Saturday morning, and within the first 6Ks, my right leg went completely numb. And this happens every now and then if you're just not stretching out your hips properly. If you've got a knot and you're sitting on it all the time, then obviously your leg just goes a bit numb. So I got dead leg in the first 6Ks, and now when you're doing 30Ks, the first 6 is like 1/5 of the way through. And so I've been on the water for like 30 minutes, and I was like, oh. So it was a bit of a tester of the emotional capacity, but I was like, dude, suck it up. This is it's either gonna suck now, it's gonna suck even more at Cape Point. So kind of just sucked it up and went for it. I only did 30Ks, so not the 35 that I was hoping for, but I was on life-saving duty that Saturday afternoon anyway. So I did another 5 then, or 5.83, so another 6. So I ended up doing 36 that day. So it wasn't a bad day all in all. So did 36 Ks a day. Now, the next morning I wanted to do another 10 and another 10 and try to get another 20 in on the Sunday, but do it separately. Sorry, my phone is below 20%. Anyway, so I wanted to do another 2 10s, but separate them out. So I just get some more distance in. But then I saw a text message on the paddling group and everyone's like, oh no, let's do a Buffles Point fish hook. Now, at 5 in the morning when I read it, when I woke up, I read it as Buffles Point to fish hook. And even then I was like, oh, but Buffles doesn't have a point, that's funny, whatever. I completely didn't realize they meant from Buffles to Cape Point and then back. So instead of being like a 24 kilometer paddle, it was a 30 kilometer paddle, and I wasn't prepped for that. I didn't have any juice, and I literally decided to do it in 5 minutes when I woke up and saw the text. I was like, oh, let me just do it. So I ended up doing a back-to-back 30 kilometer paddle on the weekend, which is just phenomenal training, but also surprised me. So that second 35K was a bit hard. I felt pretty good for the first 5 kilometers. I was quite worried because we were literally going into a headwind, and I was like, I really hope I can make it back. But then in my head I was like, Luke, you can always do 20Ks. Even if it takes you like 3 hours, you will just slug through it. And it was a downwind, but not really that good of a downwind. It was a downwind you had to work for. And so I had a nice paddle from Cape Point to Millers, which is like, what was it? It's like 19 Ks. But I was broken at 19. Like I was properly not stoked to be on the water at 19. And so then we turn and it's like the last 11 Ks back to Fisher, from Millers to Fisher. And it was an awful downwind from Millers to the lighthouse. It did pick up after the lighthouse, but it was at that pace where you needed to be pulling through the water at a certain power threshold just to make it over the run in front of you. So basically if the wind's blowing, there's like a minimum speed to be on the wave that you have to require. And I was literally just below that. I mean, I needed to be paddling at 14 and a half, and I was literally paddling at 14 or like 13.8. And it was just every time just not quite there. And it really, it got to me. I was having a tough time. My arms were burning, my shoulders were dead. Anyway, I was stoked to make it back to the beach. I was very stoked with a weekend of 66 kilometers, which either way you look at it is fantastic. And if I include this Sunday and last week's Sunday, so it's not properly a week because it's not like Sunday to Saturday, it's Sunday to Sunday, I did 32 kilometers. But if it's from Sunday to Saturday yesterday, from Sunday to Saturday, then it was a 100K week. So I finally got to my 100K week goal, but cooler to say 132 Ks. But either way, I'm really stoked with that. I'm really stoked with that kind of distance. Obviously taking today off. I want to be back in the water tomorrow. I think I'm ready to start paddling with the Orca squad. I think I'm finally at a fitness where if I give myself 24 hours, I will have recovered from a fitness perspective. Maybe my body won't be fully, like my muscles won't all be there, but I won't be raising my heart rate to an extreme level. And then if I keep kind of consistency where if we're doing like a hard interval session, I don't quite burn it into like the 80%, extreme heart rate. I don't have a heart rate monitor, but you can kind of feel it. Like if I don't kill myself on every session and I do every session about 70%, I think I'm going to be in a really good position. Because right now, I feel like I've got the fitness, but now I just kind of need my body to catch up from a power perspective, which, it is 4 weeks. But how likely am I going to be able to like really get that speed? I guess time will tell. This is the first time I've ever trained so consistently for an event ever in my entire life, I would say. Besides like Life Saving Nationals previously, but Life Saving Nationals is like a variety of different events. This is for like a single race. So I think either way, I've kind of been diving back into stoicism, like separating oneself from the end goal and understanding that it's all about the enjoyment of the process. And I think that's what I'm really pleased with. This week has been an enjoyment of the process. I do sort of fail myself. For instance, this morning I was feeling really broken, felt like life's ending, but I was just reminded of the fact that, Luke, you did like 60 Ks over the weekend, so you're probably just tired. So there are like little slip-ups like that, but I'm more pleased with the kind of consistency I've been experiencing, the fact that I do have this data now, and I'm recording the experience. So as far as 9 weeks goes, where, I mean, if we look at it practically, I've only really started training from week 4, if that, looking back at my notes. Getting sick and all those kind of things, you know, recovering from getting sick, building up. I mean, I went from paddling 8 kilometers a week to 6 weeks later doing 100. You know, like that's a pretty solid curve of increase, and so I'm pretty stoked with how I've kind of taken a step back and gotten my head straight and got back into it. But yeah, last 4 weeks to go. I'm mostly focusing on the ocean right now, getting the distance in on the sea, and I think I'm going to do a couple of more quicker interval-based sessions now on the flay, but then really flay like with the Orca squad, but really focus on not completely killing myself. Like my goal is to not get on the water and die every single time, even if it means like telling myself, Luke, stop paddling, like don't race this interval, because that's like my issue. Is like, even as I had mentioned when doing the qualifier, I couldn't help myself from going. Like I couldn't help myself from just trying that extra little bit. Oh, knock this down. I couldn't help myself. So I want to train to not do that, because I think that's going to be a big defining factor for Cape Point. Because I think if I race the race how I'm imagining to process it, then I think I could come with a fairly good takeaway. The top 25 is still the goal. That is looking, I always knew it was ambitious. It is still very ambitious, but I think with the right distance, with the right training, I could maybe get there. I'm going to be stoked with top 35, honestly. I'm going to be stoked to finish, to be quite frank with you. But I would like to see how hard I can do it. So things are coming together, and I guess we just keep on keeping on. So thank you for watching another video. Thank you for following along for the journey, and I will see you at the end of next week. So have a great day, week, year, and life, and I'll check you in the next one. Cheers.